I'm hoping the volume will be much better than it has been for you guys. Coffee, because you need coffee. This right here, look at her. Maggie is doing wonderful today. She is super bubbly. So if you're new to my page and you don't know, I run a micro bakery out of my home. So what does that mean? That means people can come and do porch pickup orders with me, or they can do out of my farm stand. So my whole jar right here is just filled with my starter, and I've got some orders. I have multiple loaves of bread that I need to make and some cinnamon rolls. So that's what we're prepping to do this week. So I just use glass bowls like this, and also my favorite bowl, which I got from Hobby Lobby, is this one right here. So if you are new to starter and you're not sure of what you need a starter, maybe not this big. You need a clear jar to have your starter. You need some bowls to be able to mix it up. And I work out of a pretty small kitchen. Unfortunately, this dough hook right here, which is what I was getting ready to tell you guys that you need, the metal piece right here came off. So this one is kind of gone, but I got this one. And then I have another bowl. I found this one at Goodwill. So today I'm going to be making some bread, and I got to make some cinnamon rolls. I've shared my recipe with you guys on my bread and on my cinnamon rolls. So those are on my channel. If you want more recipes and you want to see how things are going, and little tips and tricks that I add, then you want to go ahead and hit that follow button. But I'm literally just going to be on here making bread, feeding my starter. I started doing sourdough a year ago. I've taught a couple of my other friends how to do it. I have even sold some of my starters so that people can bake with it because they've tried making a starter and it was hard for them. But my starter I feed every day. And because of that, I've got a feeder in the morning and at night. I do a 1 to 3 to 3 feeding, or I do a 1 to 5 to 5 feeding. I do have a starter in the fridge that I do keep in there just in case somehow I accidentally mess this one up for 1, but for 2, so that I always have backup. So I am going to be just making some bread and some sourdough cinnamon rolls. My bagel recipe that I got from the Sourdough Hoe. If you don't follow her, you really should. I'm going to mix up my bread. I've already washed my hands. I need to take my rings off because I do stick my hands in my shaggy dough when it's all done. One of the other things that a lot of people don't know is that your jar that your starter is going to be in, you need to get the grams of that jar before you put your starter in it, so that you know when you go to discard and refeed your starter, how many grams of starter you actually really have. So I am going to actually get started with a couple loaves of bread. 2 loaves are just regular. And then I've got a jalapeno and cheddar loaf that I have to do. And I found, so you can do fresh, or I've seen people do the one in the jar. So I wanted to try the one in the jar. And I did try it, and it's actually just as good, if not almost better, because it's got that juice. So I definitely like that. But I found last week at one of my local grocery stores that it was bits, like it was like cut up chunks. And so I've been adding that along with the other jalapeno and cheddar in my bread, and people are loving it. Okay, that's enough starter for this one. Try and show you guys a picture, try and remember a picture. So I'm going to just move this out of my way. Not too many bowls, but I got to make quite a bit. And then I'm going to have to feed my starter again. Always got to feed her when I'm done. I always feed her because I know I'm going to need more of her here pretty soon. She's very, you can see she is very bubbly. Stick-eye. She's doing good. She's very healthy starter, which is what I love to see. You know, I use quite a bit of starter. My loaves are huge, and that's why my customers come to me, because my sourdough loaves are pretty dang big. So much so that those brown bags that people put their sourdough loaves in, I can't. But you have got to find something that you do that's different from everybody else, that sets you apart from everybody else when you're doing sourdough. So many people do sourdough and farm stands now that if you don't have something that sets yourself apart from everybody else, people are just gonna pick probably what's closest. But thankfully, I have chosen to make really big sourdough loaves. I'm going to be honest. I price them the same as my competitors around me. So, and everybody needs to kind of figure out their pricing on how much you're using for things and in your area. So I live in Idaho. My area is a little different than probably somewhere like Texas or Tennessee or something, right? Like every area is going to be different. But my big jar that I have right here, I can get 3 loaves out of if she's fed really well with my go-to recipe. And my go-to recipe has been amazing and non-fail for me. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I will just refeed her, and then I can make the rest of my sourdough. Cinnamon rolls, which I can make cinnamon rolls with what's left in here too, but I don't have the rest of my recipe because I'm out of honey for my cinnamon rolls, so I need to go get honey. I never dump this stuff down my sink. I get my paper towels from Sam's Club because you can get a lot of paper towels, and when I do that, it definitely helps, and then I'll stir it with water and dump it in the area. Okay, so now that I have my 3 bowls for my loaves, I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna now add my water, but I'm gonna show you, this is where I'm at. Like, that's how much starter I have left. And like I said, I probably have enough in there for my cinnamon rolls. but I don't have my honey. So I'm just going to refeed her and she'll bulk back up, and I'll have to do cinnamon rolls later because I got to go to the store. Okay, so now that I have my water in here mixed with my starter, I like to get these guys mixed together first before adding my flour. And then I added my flour and my salt together and mix it all in together. If you want to add oil into your loaves of bread, you can. I do not, because I tried that and I did not like that. So I'm just going to get this mixed up and we'll be... Okay, so now I'm going to add in my flour and my salt, and this will be one of my plain loaves. The plain loaves are the easiest. You do need a scale unless you're going to do it in cups. I don't know my recipe in cups, I'm going to be honest with you. I only know my recipe in grams because I do everything in grams. So now I'm going to add my bread flour, which I'm very low on. So I'm a little concerned, for sure. There we go. Okay, we're good with the flour. Those buckets have been a lifesaver. Just saying, if you do bulk baking, a bucket. And now I'm going to mix this together. Try not to overthink it. I feel like people make this very complicated and it gets very discouraging, especially for people who are new trying to do sourdough. And one of my favorite things about this recipe that I make is bulk fermentation does not take me 8 hours. Again, it might be different depending in your area. It gets here in the daytime. We don't have humidity, I'll tell you that right now. We're a very dry state. Well, at least where I'm at in Idaho. It's very dry. But it gets very warm, like in the 90s. We're not into the hundreds, thankfully. Like, we're not that hot. We can't go cook an egg on the sidewalk. There have been some hot days, but it's not a normal everyday thing here. And so for me, I do have AC in my house, and I leave this sitting on my counter, and normally it only has to bulk fermentate for maybe an hour to 2 hours at most. And so I can bake my bread the same day. Like, I will bake these loaves today because of it. Now in the wintertime, it has to sit on a little bit longer just because it's not as warm, but I keep my house about 72 in the wintertime. But I can bake my loaves the same day if you want to. Now, you can mix this up, stick it in the fridge overnight, which is what gives you that taste. She is my shaggy dough right here. I will cover her up with a shower cap for an hour, and she will sit on my counter for an hour before I start doing stretch and folds. Then I'll do 2 stretch and folds and 2 coils. Right before I start my stretch and folds, I grab myself a cup. I put some water in it, I grab a piece of dough, and I do put it in the water. It will sink, and it will rise when the bulk fermentation is done, is what they say. And it has been pretty on spot for me when I've done it. But I'm telling you, my bulk fermentation time is only like an hour to 2 hours, depending, for these loaves. You can put them in the fridge overnight if you want to. You can make this the night before you go to bed and then stick it in the fridge and wake up the next morning, and then your dough should be ready for you at the next morning to shape. And then I let mine sit for about 2 hours on my counter, and I'm able to cook. But if you need your bread that same day, this recipe does allow you to do that. I will cook these breads that I'm making right now today. They will get cooked today. So it is definitely a recipe that you can cook same day if you choose to. Now, putting it in the fridge is what gives you that flavor. And I can't think of the other. I totally forgot to add my water first like I normally do. Whoopsies. Okay, well, I'm doing this one backwards. Normally I always add my water, get the other 2 mixed up first, and then I added my flour. But I got talking and got distracted, so now I'm going to add in my water, I guess, and we'll go from there. I added my water. We're just going to mix her all up. I don't like when I get out of my way of doing things. I don't know why, I just don't. I like my water and my starter to be mixed up first. Use my hands at the end to mix up my dough just to get everything mixed in good and all the dry pieces in with it. For an hour, and I always set a timer, and I'm going to cover her for an hour, and then we'll be back. I'm trying to think of some other tips that I could give you guys that could help, because I want everybody to be successful in sourdough. That's what I made this page for. And I'm literally just doing this and making this content for free because I want to share all my recipes that I learn. I am going to tell you that I learn my recipes normally from somebody else. I try them out and I critique them to what I want them to be and what I want to do. You guys can do the same thing. I know that knowing your hydration on your sourdough is another thing that people struggle with. And so I will make a video about that, because for like the first 6 months, I didn't understand when people are like, it's 80% hydration or 50% hydration. It was kind of confusing, but we're not going to go into that today because I'll go over that in another video. So I mixed up my starter and my water like I always do. If you guys have questions too, please feel free to ask. I had somebody ask me, you really use 300 grams of starter in your recipe? I do. And the reason I do is because that's what makes my loaf so big. And I have tried other recipes, and those other recipes just didn't make my loaves as big, and I struggled with them a little bit. I just didn't like how those ones turned out. I need them to be big loaves. These ones are big, they spring up really good, they taste amazing. I've never had a loaf come out that was gummy and gross when I follow this recipe, and I do the bake time and everything that I do. But I noticed too, when I got asked that question, I'd never told you guys my bulk fermentation time, so that's why I wanted to tell you guys that today, and how much I really do bulk fermentation with my different temperatures, different things. A lot of things are going to play into how you are doing with your sourdough, like your temperature of where you're at, your water. If you're not using bottled water and you go to use your tap water, it could be different than using like bottled water. So just keep in mind, different things change your sourdough, how it rises, what it's doing, depending on what you're doing. And those are things you're going to need to understand and things you're going to need to research and kind of find out and play around with. Not everybody catches on and gets their first loaf perfect, and that's okay. You are going to have to continue to play with it till you find something that works. That's exactly what I did. It's not like I made a loaf of bread one day and it just came out perfect. It did not. I went through several loaves and trying things, and I always, especially with a new recipe, me and my family try my new recipes first before we go put them on the farm stand or before I offer them for porch pickup, anything else like that. Always make sure that your recipe tastes good, it's springing up, it's not like gooky in the inside. You also, even every oven cooks differently. So I bake mine at 450 for 30 minutes with the top on, and then 10 minutes with the top off, because that's what works for me. But a lot of people will do 450 for 30 minutes with the top on and another 25 or 20 minutes with the top off. Mine is an electric stove, not a gas stove, which is also going to change things. So you have to play around with stuff and just know that just because it works for one person doesn't mean that it's always going to work out for you, but just critique it. Get it where you need and go, okay, that works. So here's my shaggy dough. Again, this is our third loaf. I need to make, I think, 2 more loaves. So I'm going to have to go get some more bread flour and feed my starter, which I'm going to do in another video, like I said, and then I'll make those loaves. But I just wanted to come on here, give you guys some advice, and I hope it helps. And if it does, please do me a favor and go ahead and hit that follow button. If you have any questions, ask.